Hi guys, welcome to another video. In this video we've got this Dapol Pannier 3702. It runs lovely, however it's on DC. So I'm going to show you how I put it on DCC, but what I'm also going to do is try and cram in there a stay alive so that this will crawl over junctions and points and cross ends and things. Because it'd be nice to have this going around like a little shunting layout. But in order to do that, we've got to remove that cab. So I've tested the loco, it works great on DC. So the next thing is to put a DCC chip in it, program that up, and try and fit a stay alive in there. Limited on a bit of space, I think, but we'll get the cab off. I'll show you how to do that, and we'll have a look. Okay, so just zoom in here. I've got this thing on the bench. And what we've got to try and do is remove the cab, and there's so many details on here I just don't want to break anything. However, I'm sure I'm going to. That's just how it is. So I'll get the super glue at the ready. So get yourself some tweezers, because here we go. On the side of this rail, or the side, this rail needs popping out and sort of down just a little bit, so it's not in the hole that it's come out of. This one as well, and yeah, this also has to come out a little bit. You can see the hole that it's meant to be in, and then hopefully it should. I'm holding the side here, I'm going to hold the top of the roof, and I'm wiggling it as I'm pulling up. I really hope this works. Come on. Pretty tense. I'm not using a screwdriver here because if I do, I might damage the plastic. However, there. Oh. Alright, that's the cab roof off. That is not for the faint-hearted. There's so many details on it. Look at all the handles and things. And turn it over. Got a bit of space to play with there where the coal's meant to go. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to use that properly though. Might be able to get the chip in there, maybe, because if we offer this up, there's really not a lot of space there, because the chips go in here, and so this is just the blanking chip if you're running on DC, so that's going to be coming out. What I might actually have to do is remove the socket in order for me to fit what I'm wanting to fit here. So what I've got, this is like my test rig. I've got a 6-pin chip and a stay alive there, because this is basically what I want to be putting in here. So I think what we'll do is so this star on there indicates pin 1. I'm literally going to go program this up quick and see what we've got loco wise, see how it runs. With a stay alive there as well, so there's no black magic here. You can buy those 6-pin chips with this blue and black output wire, and then you can also buy these as well. These are Lays, made by Lays, L-A-I-S. I just got them off good old eBay, as you do. What I'm going to do is put a bit of tape on them wires so they're not sort of dragging around the track. This is a bit Heath Robinson. Being careful not to really screw anything up here. So let's go to the track and we'll see what we've got. Okay, so I've programmed it, the chip. You just do your chip as you would do your own chips, I guess, because they're all going to vary. So that's plugged in, it's working. I've tested it, so it does move. What we want to do here though is check the stay alive that's going to power the loco over the point, because there'll be a dead spot here because they're inshore frog points. So fingers crossed, and yes, no issues there. Just go backwards. You just can't achieve this with DC. I've tried many times. That's perfect. I might even try it slower than that, because there's no reason it shouldn't. try that. I've got to do a bit more tuning, like back EMFs and things. Without that stay alive, it would be handling a lot like a DC loco, so it would just stop on them points, on that point there. Whoa, I nearly did. The stay alive kept it going. Right, let's try that again. I think where it hesitates there, it's not necessarily the power. I think that's more it just going over a lumpy bit. Oh, that's so cool. Right, enough of me playing around. We've got to try and fit it all under that cab now. Now, I'm not going for sound on this, although I do think it's possible. It's just really not needed, because if this is going to be on a layout, it will probably be quite a small one, shunting stuff around. So that's why I've opted to go for just DC, C, with a stay alive, and keep it simple. Yeah, she's happy. So it's important to test before you go ahead and sort of put all the electronics in, basically. Yeah. Alright, we've got to work out now how to fit it all in there. So we'll go back over to the bench and see what we got to play with space-wise. Okay, so we're back at the bench. Now, what I've got here, I've got the stay alive. I've just taken the heat shrink off of it. Be very careful, if you're copying me, not to touch that, the circuit board side, in case you short a capacitor out. That's the chip. All I did was I literally just taped the stay alive onto the wires that were there. We can come back later and solder them, which I think is what I'm going to be doing. Now, it's important here because I need to work out how much space I've got. Now, the coal box that was on the back simply actually just it kind of came off with a bit of working. It came off the back, so it kind of goes in like that. So it'll go on and you push it on and round and up. I might even end up cutting this off just so I can put it back together nicely. Now I'm dealing here with some very small things and it is very, very, very fiddly. And I'm really trying my best not to break anything. So the cab, let's put the chip in so you can see what we've got here. Now I am making a bit of a sacrifice here because normally you wouldn't see a stay alive in a cab, you'd see people. But I don't really want to hack this apart. I don't think it's needed for what I'm trying to achieve. So what I tend to do is just mock everything up. So we'll put the cab, I guess, half on that we've got. Now that's on. I'm not putting it on like properly with the side rails, but that's where the chip basically sits. And then this would kind of go over the chip. Now I really don't... Oh no, I think I've just broken that. Yes, you've got to be so careful with the details. That's close to breaking. Right, what I think I can do is fit this stay alive in the cab space up there, inside there. Just, maybe, hopefully. That's where I really want to try and put it if I can. And then what I'll do is I guess I'll just put some engaged figures poking out the door. Not ideal. I mean, if I paint it black and stuff, I mean, that's going to be great for me. I'm not too fussed about that. I just want it to have a stay alive and crawl so I can put it around shunting yards and sidings and things. So what I've noticed here is the chip's quite high up and there's a bit of a gap there, and it's only that high up because it's on a socket. Now I'm also trying to avoid removing the socket from the loco because that is a pretty handy thing to have, although I might just do that. I might just remove the socket and gain that extra space that's needed. I'm just trying to get the cab off again without breaking it, hopefully. That's so fiddly. I mean, once it goes on, it's really stuck on there. So that's off again. So you don't remove your chips with the wires, but I'm just going to. I think I can maybe do away with the chip, maybe cut the posts down. Or even better, another thing to do here would be to actually just try the cab on. So it's going to be a lot of putting it on and off, taking stuff on and off just to see if it fits. I think I'm going to be pushing my luck with this. It might just work. But you see there's all this heat shrink, which is to stop things shorting out. So stay lives in the cab roof. And the chip's going to go that way around. So I've marked on the socket with a marker pen there, pin 1. And then the star on the lay chip just lines up with that. So my thinking process would be, hopefully it would go on, and I don't think it's going to. No. See the cab levitating by about that much. I think I can gain that space if I solder the chip directly to the wires, which I wanted to avoid, but really I think that's the only choice I've got. Instead of mincing around here, I think I'm just going to get on and do it. Not ideal, but it would definitely make the thing work. And it's a lace chip, so I'm not overly worried. Now you could probably buy these chips with wires instead of pins like this. I'm going to use this chip because it's got the stay alive output on it, which just makes my life a whole lot easier instead of trying to solder onto the board. So I think the first thing we're going to do here is remove that yucky bit of insulation tape, and then we've just got to. Sorry, I keep hitting the camera because it's super duper close. Bear me 1 second. Okay, I've moved the camera a bit higher up so I don't keep hitting it. So I'm hoping I can kind of show you what's going on here. So we're going to remove this. Now you probably wouldn't need to necessarily do this if you bought, I don't know, a different stay alive or something. But that's the smallest one I can find without actually making one, and I am not making one. And I'd love to tell you what the capacity is of these capacitors, but they have no markings on them, so I can't. I don't know what they are. I know they're electrolytic capacitors, so they're not ceramic capacitors. Therefore, they're going to be polarized, which means if you short them out, they're dead. They just won't work. Whereas the ceramic capacitors are quite forgiving. In fact, actually, I've wired some of them backwards in the past and they actually still work. Whereas if you do that with those polarized ones, these round can ones, they just won't work ever again. But those stay lives are pretty cheap. I think they're about 12 quid from eBay. And they do like a flat pack. And they do that square pack that we've got there. Right, so what I'm going to do is I will desolder these wires, and I'm just thinking actually we might have just opened up a different type of thing here. Whoa, how far I can get that chip in there. Interesting. Now I'm thinking, can I put the stay alive behind the chip? Possibly. Right, I'm going to have to go into this loco a little bit more than I wanted now. What I'm going to do, I'm trying not to hack it around too much, but it's imminent, isn't it? What I'm going to do is look at the pin out for this 6-pin chip and make sure I solder the correct wires to the ones that I need. And all I need wire-wise are the pickups off the loco, the rail, left hand, right hand, and I'll need the motor wires. I'm not worrying about lights. I don't want to mess around with any of that on this. It's simply, I'm just showing you, I mean, you can just plug a chip in and be done, call it a day, but for me, I want to make it go around a yard, and really slow and realistic, and the only way really is to put it on DCC because it's got minimal pickups, and to then it'll be able to go over all sorts of points. The next thing I need to do, I think, is remove this. So I have been in this before, and I think to make life easy, I'm going to remove this coupling. This job ain't for the faint-hearted because I'm trying not to break any of the details. So just put the chip to one side. Now, if I remember rightly, if I get the screwdriver in the socket and leave it up, it makes all sorts of cracking noises. Lovely. It should, yeah, lift up. Okay, and there's one screw. Yeah, there is a screw just there. So we'll take that out. I don't take this cover off all the way. I just sort of leave it hovering. Remove the screw, because if I remember rightly, the motor is actually part of the boiler. Let's put the screw to one side. Now I'm just going to pop this back down like that. It sort of clicks in. Try not to break anything. And now this, I think, it's got clips at the back just there and one on the other side, but you don't need to worry about those. You lift it up at the front, and on yours, if it's new, that there will be attached. So I just literally got a knife in. I remember lifting that up, yeah. So up and out, and there we go. This is the inside of the pannier. I'm just going to turn it this way round. Now, you can see how small this is, and there's just so much in it. And there's our motor, look, hiding in the top. Wow, what a beaut. So the question is, can I go even one step further? I'm just going to go look and see what the pin out is for the 6-pin chip, because I might be able to do a little shortcut here and literally solder it to these terminals, the outside chip pins on the chip. How cool would that be? That can sit like in there, and if I get as close as I can, that'd be very neat actually, if I can do that. That'd be cool. Right, I'll be back in a minute, which for you is going to be instantaneous. I'm just going to look at the pin out and we'll be back. Okay, so I'm going to flash up an image for you now, and basically this picture corresponds to, and we'll flick back, this chip. So what we've got is pin 1 with the star, which would be this outer pin. Now if I hold it this way, that would be the same like that would correspond to the pins. So if we look at the picture again, yeah, the bottom one there where it's orange, pin number 1, and then flip back to now, this bottom pin here would be orange, and then it would be grey, red, black, white, yellow. So what I need are orange and grey, so these bottom 2 pins are going to be for the motor, and then the middle 2 pins are actually for the rail pickup, and then the outer 2 pins would be for functions, headlights and rear red light. Okay, so what I'm going to do is snip some of the pins or desolder them, and then try and fit it as close as I can to in here, sort of in there if you like, because the further forward I can get that, there's a high chance I can actually get the stay alive behind it and not so high in the cab, which would be pretty cool. But so we're going to need these two outer wires on the top, or pins, they're going to be the motor. The two inner ones are going to be for these contacts. And then these two lower ones here I'm not going to use. So I think what I'm going to probably have to do here, I'm going to remove some of this heat shrink so we can get some access to the back of the pins, and I'll just see if I can sort of desolder those pins. You can buy chips which are wired or not even wired, or you know, that haven't got these pins, but I do want to try and use this chip because if I can, then it's a bit less messing around. So I'm being very careful here. I don't want to mess the chip up. These chips aren't actually terribly expensive, but I just don't want to have to ruin a chip just for, you know, like removing the heat shrink. So you do all this stuff at your own risk, really. Before I go much further, what I'm going to do is just mark this side is pin 1. Simple but effective. Because there'd be nothing worse than, I'm essentially going to be hardwiring this into the loco. There'd be nothing worse than getting that wrong and wiring everything backwards. So now I definitely have access to those pins. So I'm going to probably desolder all of those, I think. So I'll get the whole soldering iron hot. We'll be back in a minute. Soldering iron's just heating up, and what I'm interested in here is to keep pin 1 and 2, because they're going to be the motor, and the two innermost ones. So the first ones I'm going to try and remove are these ones, which would be 5 and 6. Now they're going to be lights. Now at a later date I could reinstate those. I'm not too fussed. So the soldering iron's hot. So you know, you could come back to those pins. Let's see if that will focus on that. There we go, it's a bit better. You could use the forward running light and the rear running light and use a diode and whatnot to make like a firebox light with an LED. And that's something that I might do down the road. I've got to be very careful. I really don't want to mess this chip up. And again, it doesn't matter how expensive it is or it isn't, I just don't want to have to buy a new chip, to be honest. None of us would. So I'm glad this is a cheapy chip. You can see I'm not on there for very long at all. So I'm going to work my way down, because those two pins now, that was kind of like my practice, if you like. Let's just turn this round. And will it focus? Kind of. Try and get some better light for you guys. Zoom in. So it is a very, very fiddly job, this. What I'm going to do though is leave that pin on for the time being until... So what I need to do here is solder 2 wires to the inner pins, which there will be our, let's have a look, our rail connections. What I've got here is this wire. I'm going to use this instead. It's a lower gauge wire. This comes off pre-wired LEDs. I can't tell you what gauge it is. I do believe though it's about 0.3 mm in diameter, if that helps you out. Now yes, I'm going to get this in the comments, I know, it won't handle the same amount of current as the thicker wire, but if there's any issues I can come back and fix it, but this is what I'm going to be using and I know it will work. The reason I prefer using it is because it is finer wire. Now see the end there, it's all ready to go, and hopefully we shouldn't have an issue soldering it on. There you go, just like that. So that's much neater, isn't it? I will. Now I'm going to probably get a lot of hate for this as well. I'm going to use the same bit of wire. It doesn't need to be that long, so I'm just cutting it down to about 3 centimeters long. I'm going to use red for the other, where it's meant to be red and black on the picture. I'll flash it up again here. I'm actually going to make it red and red. Now, the funny thing is, a lot of people are like, it has to be one way round, otherwise it won't work. If you think about it another way, if you take the train off the track and you turn the train 180 degrees round on the track, you've basically just switched them wires round. So also in these decoders there's a full bridge rectifier, so it takes the AC current from your track and power, shall I say, and it will basically sort it out so it becomes DC voltage, and it doesn't matter which way your train is on the track, it will still do it. So both them wires are on now. I might as well have this under a microscope, it's tiny. So you can see how short they are. What are we going to do next? Oh, I think the next thing's probably going to be to put it somewhere near in the loco. Although what we could possibly do, what would be easier? Because I don't need all this wire for the stay alive, so I'm thinking ahead. Now what I'm going to do is actually, I'll leave the wire long on here, and I'm more than likely going to unsolder it from this chipboard later. So black will go to black, blue will go to blue. So we'll leave the wires alone on the decoder for now. I think we're about ready to take that other pin off, so I'll hold it on the wires instead. Probably a bit of a bad idea, but seems to be working alright, doesn't it? I'm just trying to avoid squashing the PCB with massive crocodile clips. Okay, so that's that. Soldering is a very finessed thing, and I'm still not perfect with it, but I think that's going to do the job. Try not to move it around too much. So those two wires are going to go and be our pickups. Okay, so our loco's back. Now my plan is to put that in there, like that. And I said I wasn't going to hack it, but what I'm also going to do is cut these posts down that the old PCB was stuck to. So, literally, snip. I think, you know, there'd be better ways of doing this maybe. You know, like getting a smaller, well, I don't think you can get a smaller chip, but I'm sure you can. There'll be better ways of doing things, there always is. But that's now getting it super duper low, which is great. Lower the better. So the plan here, red and black, these wires now have to go to these pickups. So what I'm doing is I'm just eyeing it all up, because another thing we've got to be careful of here is we don't want the chip really to be in contact with anything metallic. You know, more to the point, you could even, I might be answering my own question here, put it that way round. which wouldn't be a bad idea, come to think of it, because if we do this, fold in the stay alive wires right under it, because there's still a bit of a recess in the middle there that the wires can sit in, and then that way none of the exposed pins will be motor side. This is just my first thought looking at it. And then also what we can do is we can put the front cover kind of on, I guess. I think that'll be the next thing to try. I'm just going to hover that there. So this guy's going to want to sit in there. I'll take that board off in a minute. It was all quite a risky thing to be doing, all this. Yes, that will sit there. And yeah, the chip really does want to sit there, inside there, look. Lower the better, because that top piece there is a weight inside the boiler. And that'll be conductive, for sure. But that leaves, so if we solder the pickup wires inside, then we can sort of secure the chip, and then we can put this down again, and we can put the motor wires onto this chip, and then put just a bit of Kapton tape over it, and then that's the decoder in. So we take that back off. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for that. That looks pretty good. So it sits down quite nicely. We could probably even put the stay alive wires over the top. How would that be? Would that look alright? I'm just trying to get it as low as I can. Something like that, I think. And the beauty is, where the contacts would be, they're sat on plastic. Yeah, I like that. We're going to go for that. So, these wires now, I think what we're going to do, they're going to fold underneath, aren't they? So, I'm going to cut them just a little bit, somewhere about there. I've picked up my blunt snips. That's not clever, is it? I just want to show you what's involved with what I do when I fit chips. These are all my locos, so I'm happy to do it any way which makes a success, really. So I'm just going to ready the wires. And you know, there is a bit of a question mark with, are these wires thick enough? And because it's quite a small motor in this train, I think they'll be just fine. You know, I think they would handle an amp all day long. Which I don't even think the motor will come close to that. It's just going to be shunting stuff around. And to be honest with you, I'm going to carry some carriages around it when we test it anyway, just to be absolutely certain. Right, so the chip's going to be in that way, so what I'm going to do is actually turn the whole thing around like this, and then solder the wires on. And you'll see why in a second, because when we fold it back over, the wires will kind of be in the place that we want them. I'm trying to be very careful with bending stuff a lot, because then wires will break. So this one here will be first. Just get a bit of solder on the soldering iron. She's on. I used to be useless at that game of Operation. I think I'd be pretty good at it now. This thing is, you know, tiny. And just for your info, I have the soldering iron quite hot, a lot hotter than you should have it for doing these kind of things. The reason I do that is because then you're on the part for a lot less time. It's just instantly solder and then you back off. Now the reason we've done this is so that I can fold this round, hopefully without breaking any of the wires we've just put on. Yeah, I think that'll be it. So now what I'm going to do, just looking whether we can get it lower. I'm just going to dot some super glue. So that's what's going to be holding it in. Now I'm going to dot cocktail stick probably. Good old cocktail stick with a bit of super glue. Just allows you to be quite accurate with where the super glue goes. So we're going to go on here. And on there. Okay. Now I've got a thing called activator, which works a charm. So basically sets the super glue off more or less instantly. I'll just hold it there for a minute. But yeah, it's turning out alright actually. I think putting the chip there is worth doing. Now it might allow me to put the stay alive in and lower, it might not. But either way, it's better than having the socket in there, because for me it's saving space, but there's no connections other than I've just wired them on. Like there's nothing to. If the chip breaks, that's in a nice position to kind of take it out and solder these wires onto it as it is here. As it is here, even. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to put some Kapton tape over this. Well, I haven't removed that, but I think that's a viable thing to do. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to put Kapton tape over it. I've got myself some blue tape. It's essentially masking tape, but it does work quite well. So I've just cut a little square of it, just like that. So Kapton tape would be for this very reason. I have got some, but I'm choosing not to use it. We'll just stay with the masking tape. I keep changing my mind, don't I? So there we go. Let's see if we can get this on now. So it slots in there. That's it. Oh, I think that's on. Yeah, that's easily on, that is. Yeah, cool. So I'm actually going to screw that back on now. So as we did earlier, I don't like doing this, but that's how it comes up. And we've just got to find our screw from earlier. I've probably lost it now. She's hiding. Get yourself a magnetic screwdriver. It will cause you a lot of relief when you struggling with the screws. There's really quite a lot of fine details on this. It's very hard not to... I don't know how Dapol really makes these in the factory and doesn't screw them up. They must have broken a few making them. Being careful here, well, I'm being as careful as I can be. You know, it's important to make sure the screw isn't cross-threading. And there, I'm not going to gronch it in there. And then, hopefully, it's in the middle. There we go, she's back on. So our motor is in, our chip is in, but we're still not going to get it working. So the next thing to do here is to solder these motor wires on. I'm actually going to cut them. Yes, cut them. I've cut them so that there's enough length for me to solder on. Sorry, I didn't show you that. All I did was I just took a bit of insulation off the end of the cables, and then I've tinned them. I'm gonna have to move the camera here because it's right in my face, because I need to get really up and close and personal with this. Yeah, sorry I keep moving the camera. That should be a bit easier to show you whilst actually soldering it. Okay, so I'm not worrying which way round I get these wires. If you want to know, pin 1 is orange and pin 2 is grey. The wires on my motor are red and black. Now, if your loco goes the wrong way on the track, you reverse these wires, and that will reverse the motor direction. Or, if you're on DCC like I am, you can just reverse it on the PC, or whatever controller you're using. So again, a bit like the rails, I don't really mind which way I put these on. It doesn't really matter to me. So that's that one on, just about. Okay, whew. Hopefully we've got a loco that works. Now I haven't put the stay alive on, but what we're going to do, we're going to just test this on the track and make sure it actually works before we continue putting the stay alive in. So let's go over to the track now. Okay, we're at the track, so let's give it a go. It's probably going to be a bit jumpy. Okay, backwards. Yeah, so it's just acting weird because it's not a current issue, it's just contact with a track issue. So once we get the stay alive in there, it'll be okay. If I go fast, actually, get over this point. There we go, she's off. Come back, come back. There she is. So, let's go back and see if we can get that stay alive in at last. Okay, so we're back. Right. Now, that works, which is great. And luckily for me, everything actually goes in the right direction. One thing I have noticed with these Dapols is these rails here, the more you touch the loco, the black paint comes off the wire. It's not the end of the world, I can sort that out. But the more you touch them, the more that comes off them. So, I'm hoping the stay alive will actually kind of like go in here. That would be neat if it does. So what I'm going to do, I think, I'm going to just snip these wires down. So for your reference here, blue wire is here and black wire is there. One at a time here, guys. Don't do both wires at the same time. That's what we're left with. I've left 2 bits of insulation on there. Like I say, I'm going to be soldering to here. And I told you not to touch the top, but I'm not that fussed. It's just, if you do certain things, things last longer. Right, so the cab's going to go on. I'd imagine loads of people have actually done this already. It's just, I just fancied a pannier. Do you know what? I think that's, I don't know. Will it go? Won't it go? After all that work, I hope it does go on the bottom there, and then that way it's not going to be in the ugly sight. Yeah, it's really tricky to work that out. Now, yeah, I could probably just put it upright like that. Turn it 90 degrees and put it upright. And what that would allow me to do is actually have people in the loco, but then this is like bang in the middle, so it doesn't really stand out too much. I just want to try just feeding the wires inside there a little bit so they're out of my way. Problem is, this is a real clicky thing to get back on. Not very easy to remove it once it's on, so I don't like putting it on. Yeah, look how much room we've got in there now. That's a lot better than it was, but is it enough to put the stay alive in like this? So this little bad boy is just about to fall off, isn't he? Oh, I don't know. He's holding on. I'll try and keep him there. Put the wires to one side so they're not in our way. Yeah, you know what? It's just, oh, it's such a tight fit. There is something else I can do, which again, I was trying not to hack this loco apart, but I think I'm going to. Maybe. So the coal goes here on the back. Will that go in that hole? No. It will do if I cut it up a bit. Alright, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a lot of hate, I think. That screw there, I think what I can do is take the screw out. It doesn't, what's it doing? It's holding the base plate to the chassis. Now my thought on it doesn't transfer power to the loco or anything like that. And to be honest with you, if I need to take it off, I'll just crack the super glue off if I was to super glue it, because I'm thinking I can get rid of that post. I can cut this out a little bit and I can mount this like that. So really all you're going to see is probably just the corner of the stay alive I think I'm going to do that. Or do I? Do I be a good boy? No, I'm not going to do that. I tell you why. I don't want to hack this apart as much as I already have. I'm going to solder the wires onto this, and it's just going to live in the cab roof. Now the reason I'm doing that is I don't want to cut that screw. I'll take the screw out and cut the post down. I could do that and you could get it down in here. But the more I hack things away, the more that I could actually probably then start fitting sound into this loco, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to put this up there. It'll sit on the chip. I'll make sure the chip's isolated so it ain't going to get any issues there. So we're going to take the cab off. We'll do it a relatively easy way. To me, I think two little guys poking out the side, you know, will do just the thing. There's not going to be a smoke box in there to simulate smoke. Sorry, firebox. I'm totally going to ruin this. So yeah, so I'll insulate this. I think I'm just going to use my blue tape again because we've got it here. Now, yeah, you can use Kapton tape. The reason I'm actually not using it, it's not very pliable. It's quite rigid stuff. You'd almost be better like using a real thin electrical tape, which again I'm not going to use. The beauty of that is it's already black, but this stuff's a bit like, it's quite cool, this stuff. Now, how do I do that? The reason I'm putting this here is because the stay alive will probably rest on it in a minute. It's not got to be amazingly pretty. So the next thing, what we got? Blue, black. So I'm going to do the black wire first on this stay alive. And we're going to cut it about there. It's too late now to go back. Oh no. I'm going to leave the other wire long. And hopefully we can just tin this and the wire will retreat, or the insulation will retreat when we get the heat next to it. Yeah, and it does. You see how that's what I'm after when I do this. When we go to the stay alive, I've got to remove this little wire here. Just like that. I would advise you don't do that. Oh god. Oh, it's so fiddly. That's on. Seriously, if you need to practice on stuff if you haven't soldered before, because this could go so wrong. I can't emphasize that enough, actually. And it still could go wrong for me at the minute. I'm just being quite lucky. Now this one, is going to be about there. Again, I'm going to kind of pre-solder this blue wire. It's funny that stay alive wires are actually thicker than the pickup wires. Got to be on the ball with this. If I slip, I could short something out. got shaky hands, get someone else to do it. Not me. Okay. Okay. I don't really want to put the cab on. It's a bit of a arse taking it on and off. Now, so what clicks it on and off are these little things here. Now you could shave them down so it's easier to take on and off. But if I do that, then it probably won't want to stay on. Getting a bit excited now because I'm hopefully near the end. Can play with our train. Okay, so it's going to sit in there like that if I do this. Now, it's not ideal, I know. But it's in. Oh, she's in. Cocktail stick. I'm just going to poke it across what we've got. That's not bad, actually. I don't mind that. Just going to try and get this thing back on. Now, I could put a bit of tape over that and paint it, or a bit of black tape, that'll do it. This guy's got to go back on, so I think, will that move forwards? Oh yeah, easy peasy. Okay, we've got her off again. So probably not a good idea to have removed that because I think it's going to be pretty tricky getting it back on. We'll have a go. I don't like the clicky noises. Yeah, I do not like them noises, but it's on. So this is the inherent problem when I mess around with locos, is I tend to cause more damage, especially on something this finely detailed. I can insulate that chipboard by poking some tape in that hole at a later date. Wow, we have a stay alive inside the pannier. Will it move a bit? Kind of doesn't want to move at all. I don't think you'd get much more in there, to be honest. Now you could probably get that whole thing down in this chunky bit here, and then you've got a bit of a cab area. That would involve a bit more cutting than I want to do on this loco. See, this side there's quite a bit more of a gap. Anyway, I'm going to mess around with these bits of wire and things, and let's get it on the track and just see if it works. It hopefully will do after all that. And then really, it's open to your interpretation. I think I might mess around with this and just get some little people. I'm going to probably try and knock it over a little bit actually. Because that's bugging me. I want it in the middle. As you can see with all this wire work, it is extremely fragile. Anyway, I'm not going to mess with that too much. I will come back to this and I'll sort it out good and proper with the wiring. But I think let's go try it on the track and see what it's doing. Okay, so we're back at the track. And right, we've got to test the stay alive. So we're going to use this point here. So we'll go real slow. And I'm not throttling it now. Yes. That's exactly what we're after there. Right, cool. Try it again. Actually, will it go slower? I've got to tune it up a little bit more. That's gorgeous, isn't it? That's what you want. Let's see if it'll go up the point. That's so good. Yeah, so I'm going to have to tune maybe the crawl speed a little bit because that's the slowest it will go. And turn it back. That's fantastic, actually. If you haven't got stay alives in your locos, get one. That is cool. I've got a class 8 that I've made DC go over this, and it won't go this slow over it. No way. Like it's nothing. And actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's see how long it runs for if I lift it off the track. This will be a good test. I'll wait till it clears a point. Alright, you count in? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's slowing down quite a bit there, isn't it? It's still going though. Okay, so I might as well have just put a battery in it. That's fantastic. That's exactly what I needed, that. Oh, I'll tell you why that is. That's basically because I've basically just used all of its power. So if you run it up the track, we'll just run it around the track, and then I'll get it to this point again, but it'll come from this direction. Because I think it's the capacitor was flattened somewhat, so it just needs charging. Let's get it down to a crawl again. Right, so here's our crawl. Oh, she's maybe it's the flanges actually on the wheels. Let's go the other way. Either way, that's cool. Zoom out. So I'm geeking out here. Yeah, it's not bothered, is it? Look at that. In fact, do we even need track? Beautiful. I'm more impressed that I managed to get it back on the track, to be fair, actually. I'm going to run it for a bit, put some carriages behind it. You can see my other projects on the go. We'll be back in a minute. Let's just have a little run around, I think.